So each month we have a theme for the month, and this month is kind of a toughie. It's sacrifice, which is not something that most Unitarian Universalists have in their lexicon when they talk about being a Unitarian Universalist. It's a little bit of a concept that's tough for us. So we've started in our small group ministry this month trying to think about sacrifice through the origin of the word, which simply means to make sacred. So what are the choices or the behaviors or the commitments that we choose in our lives to make something or someone sacred?
Interestingly, it reminds me of the 1984 commercial from Dunkin' Donuts. You don't remember it, but
I may have been a year old.
But there's an old guy, and he gets up at 4 a.m. and he's kind of like, and he says, "It's time to make the donuts. It's time to make the donuts. It's time to make the donuts." And you see him every day, in and out. It's time to make the donuts, because he has to get up to make them fresh. And the point of joy doesn't come until the doors open on the Dunkin' Donuts store. And he sees people and his face becomes joyous. And that's what it reminds me of.
That kind of stirs for me a comment that we both heard Jean Pupke, who is the senior minister at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Richmond, make recently, where she said, you don't really become a member of a community until you are able to derive joy from someone else getting what they need.
Yeah.
And you're bearing witness to it.
That's right.
So that hymn that you always thought was incredibly irritating, watching someone else take joy in singing that hymn,
right,
brings you joy.
That's right.
And that's when you know you're part of a community.
Right.
One thing we want to avoid when we talk about sacrifice are the kind of sacrifices where you sacrifice yourself at all costs.
That's right.
And there are certainly strong messages in our culture for many of us that we're taught, you come last.
That's right.
Everyone else needs to come first.
That's right.
But I think there's a balance. There's a middle path.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what we're trying to get to this month.
So I think the conversations both in our services and in our small groups are going to be very rich and very complex this month.
Indeed. And maybe there'll be donuts.
Maybe there will be donuts.
Join us.
Time to make the donuts. Time to make the donuts.
Great donut makers aren't born, they're made.
We made the donuts.